There is a calm that seems to trail behind you, chosen soul. Not the quiet that comes from absence or loss, but the composed hush of hidden sovereignty moving through the world unnoticed. You move among people without drawing eyes, yet the unseen realms are fully aware of every step you take. You may have questioned why the divine allowed your name to remain absent from the clamor, why your impact feels veiled while others broadcast theirs without restraint. But here is the deeper reality. You were never designed to chase attention. You were entrusted with authority. There is a seat aligned with your life, not one shaped by human ambition, not a stage assembled by effort, but a seat formed by the breath and intention of God Himself. A place that releases influence quietly through who you are, how you pray, how you walk in alignment. You've sensed it before. When you enter a space, the air subtly rearranges itself. When you speak, even briefly, your words linger in ways people struggle to explain. That isn't charm. That is alignment with a higher kingdom. Your voice holds substance because it rises from beyond visibility. The world applauds those who shout, but heaven empowers those who carry truth in stillness. You are among the few entrusted with that kind of weight. You are the kind God relies on to move silently while shaping outcomes. While others strive to be noticed, you are being arranged to move what cannot be seen. Chosen one, this moment is meant for you, especially if you've wondered why you remain concealed, why insight flows through you that others aren't ready to receive, why your influence doesn't resemble what influence is supposed to look like. By the time this settles within you, you'll understand that your quiet nature is not a flaw. It is a sacred covering. Your humility is not hesitation. It is evidence of heaven's confidence in you. And that authority anchored beyond sight is already shifting realms. Even without applause, there is something uncommon about you, and you've always felt it. Not superiority, but distinction. You experience life on deeper layers. You perceive movements before they surface. You read hearts before words are spoken. This isn't random. It is a form of spiritual intelligence woven into you long before your arrival here. When God prepares someone for subtle authority, the journey is rarely ordinary. You were likely misunderstood early, labeled too intense, too inward, too spiritual, too distant, too unlike everyone else. But you were never out of place. You were being shaped for holy restraint. Those entrusted with heaven's weight cannot be careless with exposure. Think of Moses. He wasn't formed in public noise. He was nurtured in the quiet of a palace, concealed from his true calling until the appointed moment. Your life follows a similar rhythm. You were hidden not to restrain you, but to guard what was planted within you. There are two streams of influence in this world, one granted by people, which fades when admiration ends, and one rooted in the throne, which functions even in anonymity. You carry the latter. That is why a few words from you can soften a hardened heart. That is why your presence steadies disorder. That is why whispered prayers in solitude can move realms more than speeches delivered under lights. It's not that you lack significance. It's that you operate under royal covering. Heaven does not evaluate by exposure. Heaven measures by authority. You were selected for an influence that moves like oil, quietly, steadily, irresistibly. You may be overlooked by people, but the spiritual realm is fully aware of you. Darkness knows you even if society doesn't, because your life bears a mark, the imprint of the throne. There is something vital you must grasp. The proof of authority rooted in heaven is not found in spotlight moments. It is revealed in what shifts simply because you are present. You don't need to declare who you are. You don't need to validate your calling. The environment already responds. The unseen already recognizes the resonance you carry. There is a pattern among those entrusted with quiet power. It isn't defined by volume, but by the calm they release, the order they establish, the authority they embody without effort. Look closely because the signs are already around you, the unmistakable indicators that your life is guided by a throne far above human systems. You've witnessed it, haven't you? You step into a room, a conversation, a gathering, a family space, and something subtly realigns. You didn't preach. You didn't perform. Yet people become more aware, more centered, more still. That is divine governance at work. Not personality, not magnetism, but the influence of the king moving through a chosen vessel. When you arrive, heaven arrives with you. That's why tension loosens, why chaos reorganizes itself. You carry a frequency of peace that transcends belief systems. You don't absorb atmospheres, you recalibrate them. People may never articulate it, but they sense it. Something shifts when you're near. That isn't praise. It's recognition, not by intellect, but by spirit. Even opposing forces feel it. Your authority unsettles what thrives on disorder. You were not only sent to speak peace, you were sent to embody it. And peace remains one of the clearest signatures of authority anchored in the throne. Another marker is this: you are rarely the obvious choice. You've noticed it. You're often overlooked, remembered only when things unravel. But when you arrive, the entire current shifts. This is sacred paradox at work. The divine often conceals the most powerful carriers beneath layers of gentleness. While many chase visibility, you are being shaped for unveiling. People might overlook you now, but the outcomes connected to you never do. When your voice enters a situation, clarity emerges. When your hands are involved, alignment follows. You've witnessed this yourself. Plans succeed when you're included. Barriers dissolve when your prayers are present. This isn't coincidence, chosen one. It is proof of grace moving quietly without announcement. Authority anchored in heaven never relies on being seen. It flows from spiritual alignment, and many times God permits others to pass you by, so it becomes undeniable that the shift came from Him, not from human effort. Your silent impact speaks louder than sermons. What changes around you becomes your testimony. This matters deeply. Because of the gravity you carry, people are magnetized toward you without knowing why. They say things like, "I feel at ease with you. I can't explain it, but I trust you." That isn't personality. That is your spirit radiating steadiness from above. Yet you've also noticed something else. Alongside attraction, you draw unexpected opposition. Some who barely know you become guarded, uneasy, even withdrawn. Not because you failed, but because your presence illuminates what they keep buried. Your influence moves first in the spiritual realm, then through emotion, and only later becomes visible. And when higher light enters a space, anything misaligned begins to tremble. So whether people are deeply drawn to you or sharply resistant, release the need to internalize it. They are responding to the authority resting within you. You carry the fragrance of heaven, and darkness cannot convincingly welcome it. Here is another hidden truth of authority rooted beyond sight. God places you exactly where His strength is meant to be revealed. Your environment may seem small, yet your spiritual reach is vast. Your life may appear quiet, but heaven measures expansion differently. Every prayer you breathe travels farther than geography. You may ask yourself, why am I here? Why does my world feel limited? But understand this clearly. You are not being hidden from people. You are being shielded from corruption. Your calling is being preserved from dilution. Think of Joseph confined before elevation. Think of David unseen before coronation. You are walking that same pattern. Your modest setting is not insignificant. It is a proving ground of immense scale. You are being trained to lead without noise, to carry power without ego, to remain pure without craving applause, because sacred influence can only be entrusted to humility. This sign is unmistakable. Your prayers may not sound polished, but they carry force. You might murmur them in exhaustion, yet heaven is attentive. God knows your voice, the way a sovereign knows the tone of a trusted envoy. When you pray over others, doors open. When you stand in the gap, disorder retreats. When your heart cries out, turbulence calms. There is movement in unseen realms when you speak. You've felt it before. Moments when you pray and reality subtly rearranges itself. Messages arrive, tensions dissolve, the air becomes lighter. This is the essence of being anchored beyond sight. You are not merely sending words upward. You are speaking from within divine alignment itself. The authority moving through you is not temporary, not granted by circumstance. It is ancestral, woven into you. That is why opposition is unsettled by your calm. Darkness understands that a single breath from you carries the resonance of a heavenly decree. You don't require volume to be effective. Your stillness outweighs noise because your inner world is tuned to the rhythm of heaven. You function from a sacred inner chamber. You've sensed it all along, that quiet impulse to do things with care, not to be admired, but to remain aligned. You have little tolerance for half-heartedness, not out of ego, but because something in you remembers honor. Your spirit recognizes kingship. You were shaped to reflect the heart of the sovereign. That is why integrity matters to you. That is why you notice details others dismiss. You know that even when no one is watching, heaven is attentive. And this awareness sets you apart. You are not driven by applause. You move from devotion. This is the culture of the throne. True royalty expresses itself through restrained excellence. You would rather act with purity and obscurity than receive praise for something hollow in the open. And because of this posture, more responsibility keeps finding you. Every quiet act done with intention declares, I carry heaven's standard. Your life has become an unspoken message of divine order. You demonstrate what the kingdom looks like when it moves gently through the world. People have remarked that your insight feels older than your years, that your words carry the depth of many seasons. And within yourself, you know this awareness did not come solely from lived moments. It was placed within you. You hold something timeless, a resonance of eternity itself, a memory of principles that existed long before your arrival here. You are not simply surviving this era. You are stewarding it. Your inner being has been shaped through layers of sacred responsibility. You don't chase what's fashionable. You sense underlying currents. You feel transitions before they become visible. That is why you've often felt slightly ahead of where you stand. Not superior, simply perceptive. This level of foresight is only entrusted to those who can carry it without misuse. Because foresight without humility becomes control. But foresight guided by humility becomes direction. A pathfinder hidden in plain sight. A presence that leads without demanding attention. A glow that shows the way without overwhelming. Every soul entrusted with authority beyond the visible shares this imprint. They remain steady when others unravel. Not because fear is absent, but because a higher voice speaks louder within them. When turbulence rises, your inner world stays composed. When confusion pours down, clarity remains. You don't react. You discern. People naturally turn to you for guidance without understanding why. They sense the clarity you carry. This is wisdom from the throne expressing itself through you. You are not just peaceful, you are rooted. And that rootedness transforms environments. And then there is the most difficult mark to accept, separation. Every soul aligned beyond sight knows this passage. There were seasons when you were drawn away from connections, from familiar circles, even from doors that seemed promising. You felt overlooked, abandoned, paused. Yet it was a hidden school of heaven. In solitude, your inner world was cleansed. Layers of ego, anxiety, and dependence on approval were gently removed. You were taught to recognize the voice of the king without interference. Because before authority can stand behind you, you must learn to listen to it without distance. Heaven was shaping you not for borrowed influence. You are not merely living in obscurity. You are operating from a hidden authority. God never intended your influence to be measured by applause or recognition. The solitude, the distance from the spotlight, was never neglect, it was preparation. Every moment of quiet, every season of seeming invisibility, was where your power was being forged. The loneliness, though sharp at times, carried a sacred purpose. It was the crucible where heaven stamped its mark upon you. Now you move with a presence that cannot be explained. There is a peace within you, a strength, a wisdom that feels almost unreal, because it is. Chosen one, if your spirit stirs as you hear this, if your soul trembles softly in recognition, then you already know you are not ordinary. You were made to govern without fanfare, to shift atmospheres quietly, to manifest heaven's calm authority in a world addicted to noise. You do not lead by spectacle. You lead by alignment. You do not advance by desire. You move by sacred assignment. And the King of Heaven watches smiling, because at last you see his hand guiding your every step. Your influence is throne-backed, not for show, not for title, but as covenant and trust. Every humble choice stretches heaven's reach through your life. Why does God choose a few to influence quietly? Because his kingdom measures power differently from the world. While the world counts followers, fame and public recognition, heaven measures obedience, alignment, and authority anchored in spirit. Your reach travels beyond your name. You touch hearts who will never meet you. Your spirit has been protected from dilution, shielded from the ambition and comparison that can corrupt even the gifted. True kingship is learned in quiet, not in applause. Remember Esther, unseen until her hour. Remember Joseph, silenced before elevation. Remember Jesus, hidden for 30 years before public revelation. They all carried throne-backed authority before it was recognized. You are walking in that same lineage. Your influence is not delayed. It is being refined. And when it is revealed, it will resonate for generations. Every act of humility builds credibility that eternity cannot erase. Every time you choose grace over retaliation, heaven nods because the throne recognizes its own. Your calling is rare not because it demands recognition, but because it represents something higher. You embody a kingdom that does not need to shout, it simply is. And soon, your quiet faithfulness will echo louder than 1,000 public accolades. Yet we cannot ignore the struggle. Being hidden is painful. There have been nights you asked, why am I unseen while others are celebrated? Have I missed my moment? No, you are precisely on time. Your battle is never with others. It is the tension between visibility and purpose. Your flesh seeks recognition, but your spirit understands the safety of the throne's shadow. God continues to prune your ego, refine your patience, and protect your influence, ensuring you can carry it without it carrying you. Remember this, when you rule quietly, demons panic noisily. They try to shake your confidence because your reach cannot be contained, cannot be traced. You operate through obedience, not platforms. Silent seasons may have felt invisible, but they were scripting your eternal credibility. Silence was never absence, it was sanctification. You were learning to move by spirit, not sight. To speak when commanded, not pressured. To influence through presence, not performance. The world is shifting now, and the loud will lose authority, while those trained in quiet obedience will rise with power that cannot be purchased. You are one of those chosen. Hear this deep in your spirit. You are not behind, not forgotten, not small. You are deliberately positioned by the throne for this moment in history. The world will soon realize that the true movers were never the ones trending. They were the ones interceding. Your throne-backed influence is rare because very few can carry such trust. God does not entrust this mantle to talent alone. He entrusts it to faithfulness. He has seen your tears, your hidden labor, your silent struggles, and he declared, "This one can carry my authority without abuse." So walk boldly, not with arrogance, but with confident alignment. Speak knowing heaven stands behind every word. Act knowing heaven rearranges circumstances in obedience. When you enter a room, God's government walks with you. You are quiet royalty of the kingdom, the kind who changes nations through... You are quiet royalty of the kingdom, the kind who changes nations through prayer, wisdom, and divine presence. Recognition is unnecessary. The throne has already validated you. God says to you now, you are rare beyond measure. I hid you not to humble you, but to unveil you at the perfect hour. Your silence has spoken volumes in heaven. Now I will amplify your influence without changing your posture. Chosen one, the world will feel your impact, not because you shouted, but because heaven spoke through your stillness. Walk softly. Carry your quiet crown. The king who backs you never forgets his own. Your influence may be unseen, but it is eternal. You are rare beyond numbers, a quiet storm of divine authority, a royal soul cloaked in humility, a throne-backed messenger sent for such a time as this.